All right, so my wife and I were just sitting out here. She bought me a gun recently, and I'm thankful for it. We just can't find any ammunition to put in it. And then we started talking about a man from my past and talking about the past. And then we got talking about Bob Saget. And to give you guys context, for me being 39, like my entire graduating class, if they are not already 40, they're going to be 40 by July. So we are now we're the middle-aged folk. We are as old as our parents were at one point. And like when I thought that my parents were really old, like,
sorry.
No, you're good. You're the only audience that's going to laugh at this. But I thought my parents were really old when they turned 40 years old. And like, I'm going to be 40, and so is my entire graduating class. Anyway, you think about, I don't know, what was it, like 88 or 89, 91, something, when Full House came out. So we were all, as they say around these parts, we were all knee-high to a grasshopper, as they call that. We were little. And the things that we can remember from that particular era, like think about like the first 2 or 3 years that Full House was on TV. Like nobody was really watching it. I'm sure some of you were. My context was Full House for Bob Saget. And then Bob Saget was also America's Funniest Home Videos. That was Friday, Sunday, ABC, I think. And we could pick that up with an antenna. Because, well, I guess if you still lived in a town, you could pick things up with an antenna. But I live so far out in the woods, I can't even get the radio to play on a digital radio in either of my trucks out here. So yeah, you had Bob Saget. I can't even remember what his name was on there. He was something Tanner, maybe. I don't even remember.
They were the Tanners, weren't they?
Yeah, I remember growing up with the girls from Full House, and I was like 4 months younger than Stephanie and like the same age. Well, no, DJ was like 6 months older than I was, but I watched that show, and I grew up watching that particular family on television. And I didn't realize until about 10 days ago that Uncle Jesse, like, I used to watch the Dukes of Hazzard, Uncle Jesse, and then John Stamos. John Stamos, they gave him the same name as Uncle Jesse from the Dukes of Hazzard, and I didn't have that epiphany until the other day. But, you know, Bob Saget, when you were that age, you didn't have any concept of what he did before Full House. And some of the people who are older than me that I truly respect that are on the internet, like Joe Rogan, for example, like that man has made a hell of a career. I'm not going to go too far of a sidebar there, but like, that guy knows Bob Saget's comedy from before he was on Full House. And you're shaking the table, dear.
Sorry.
He knows that man's comedy before he was on Full House. Us, I guess you could group me into we're not going to do that. Anyway, we didn't have any concept of that. So, Full House ended. America's Funniest Home Videos got some awful... It wasn't Craig Ferguson, but he was somebody who was like, he couldn't even fill Craig Ferguson's shoes, and that wouldn't be hard to do in show business in any context, even though I find the man funny. Anyway, the next time our generation actually saw Bob Saget was in the movie Half Baked. And the first time I saw it, I didn't know if that was actually Bob Saget in Half Baked. And Dave Chappelle was at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Oh, the fuck was his name in Half Baked? I can't even remember what Dave... Thurgood Jenkins. There you go. That's a movie name if there ever was such a thing. So Thurgood Jenkins was at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting because his girlfriend Mary Jane's father was in prison for selling marijuana. Dumbest movie, like, well, best movie. Cough heard around the world. Mm-hmm. Best movie ever with the absolute worst script that you could ever even imagine. I mean, like, Jim Brewer doesn't even get high, and he was like, that movie had like the worst script in the history of the world, but it worked the same way that Napoleon Dynamite worked. It worked the same way that Blazing Saddles worked. That in its particular era, it was like the most controversial thing because it was like a movie about people who just fucking smoke weed. There was a kindergarten teacher who smoked weed, and then he fed popcorn and pizza and whatever else to Phil Hartman's horse, and his horse just dropped dead and died because his horse was a fucking diabetic. Like, just I don't even know if a diabetic horse is a thing. But anyway, the next time that we actually saw Bob Saget was in that movie when Thurgood Jenkins was at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I'm Thurgood Jenkins, and I'm hooked on marijuana. And Bob Saget stood up in the back of that room, hadn't been anywhere in 10 years, and he said, I used to suck dick for coke. You ever suck some dick for marijuana? And then somebody else, boo this man, and it turns the camera back the other way around, and Dave Chappelle's character, Thurgood Jenkins, goes, no, I haven't. And it was so far out in left field to see the dad from Full House and the guy from America's Funniest Home Videos stand up in a movie and say, I used to suck dick for coke. Like, nobody knew where that was coming from. But then you go and you look at the man's stand-up comedy, and he's a fucking genius. He's funny as shit. He may have been a little weird with old Kimmy Gobbler, as he called her in an interview that you probably can't find online anymore, but like 16, 18 years ago, there were some sort of accusations about him and Kimmy Gibbler, and he called her Kimmy Gobbler. I don't know. The past is the past. I mean, for fuck's sake, they still play The Cosby Show on television, and Bill Cosby's rotting away in prison for raping like half of a city. Anyway, I just had a thought with you. There's 7 minutes of your life that you will never, ever get back. I'm going to rewatch this and decide whether or not I'm going to put that on the internet, but it was just the first time you saw Bob Saget after that. And then when you go do your homework, and like, if you haven't looked up any Bob Saget comedy, I guarantee you there's Bob Saget on Netflix, and if it ain't on Netflix, it's all over YouTube. And the man's fucking hilarious. Anyway, there's a Friday night short story for you. Maybe I'll start doing these things. Do a little Friday night something about a memory from the 80s and 90s, and I don't know, maybe if you like that. I'm trying different things on the channel. If you like these, let me know. Maybe I'll do another one next week. And maybe you could give me a character even. Whether it be my thoughts on, oh, Jesus, Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, Chris Farley. I could tell you about the time I met David Spade, for fuck's sake. I have a lot of stories because I've lived a lot of places and I've met a lot of people. And I've been this close to being famous like 4 times in my life. But YouTube is not it. Anyway, that's it for a Friday. Peace out, fuckers.